Hi everyone, it's Miss Laura from the Upper Marion Township Library coming to you with today's Scientist Society program, Rock Candy. Now, this program was a little more difficult for me than I thought it would be, so if it doesn't work the first time, be patient, it will work, or you'll get some semblance of it working, I promise. I'll give you a couple troubleshooting hints at the end. So what you'll need for rock candy, you'll need sugar, lots of it, you'll need some water, and you'll need food coloring. The other thing you'll definitely need for this program is help from an adult parent or guardian or someone who is able to use the stove. You definitely need help with this because the sugar needs to dissolve in water and it gets very, very hot. So please make sure that you have some help. The other thing you're going to need are some clear glass jars. I'm using some mason jars here. And then something to use to create your crystals for your rock candy. So I did a couple different experiments. I used some string in this one, so you can see the string hanging down. I just used a skewer on top to keep the string in the solution. And then I also did one where I kind of used a skewer. I cut it in half and I used some tape to secure it and used that as the actual growing medium. This one did not work as well, but I'll explain everything as we go. So the first step, you're going to boil water on the stove, and it's a 1 to 2.5 times mixture. So 1 cup of water, and you're going to end up with 2 to 3 cups of sugar added to this. This is definitely candy because it's basically just sugar water. But you'll slowly add the sugar to the water and wait for it to dissolve a little bit at a time and just keep adding more and more sugar. You basically want to overload the water to the point where it will accept no more sugar into it. So you just want to keep adding sugar. Once you do that, when you're finished, you can add your color that you want. So I'm using some food coloring here. I just did a blue and a green, so that was really simple. So just add a little food coloring at the end, stir it one more time to incorporate the food coloring, and then you want to let it sit and cool. And as I told you, it's very, very hot. So you want that mixture to cool for at least 20 minutes, possibly up to 30 minutes, depending on how hot it is. What I did in the meantime was I made sure my jars were really, really cleaned out. So I made sure I washed them really well. And then I filled them up with some hot water from the tap and actually submerged them in a bowl of hot water because you don't want an extreme change in temperature from your sugar mixture in the pot that's cooling into your jar. So you want your jar to be fairly warm as well. So once the mixture has cooled down, you're then going to pour it into the jar. So empty the jar of all the water that you were holding in it. And then you'll pour the mixture right into your jar. Now, I did a little bit more than a cup of water, and I made these 2 jars. So you kind of just have to play it by ear. You might have to make a little bit more, a little bit less, depending on what you're going to do. Once you do that, then you're going to add your string or your stick into the mixture. Now, while it's cooling, you want to actually soak the string or stick in water, and then you're going to coat it in sugar. So that creates a way for those crystals to start growing very easily. So I wet my string down, and then I just sprinkled some sugar all over it, and then I dumped it into the jar. Now, the other thing you need to remember is that if you put it too close to the bottom or to the sides, the crystals are going to get stuck and they're going to grow on the bottom and the sides of the jar as well. And it's going to be really difficult to get your rock candy out of the jar. And then once you're ready to go, you basically just let it sit on the countertop. I may suggest covering it a little bit with a paper towel or something. If you have some bugs in the house, it is sugar water, so it will attract whatever is in your home. So I saw a couple flies floating around, kind of flying near it, so you might want to just cover it up while it sits. You're going to then wait. Within a couple hours, you should really start seeing some crystals develop. So give it a couple hours. If you don't see crystals right away, give it some time. But, after 4 or 5 hours, if there's nothing in your jar, you probably don't have enough sugar in your water. And you can actually just restart with your mixture. So rather than starting all over again, you can actually pour your mixture back into a pot, add more, heat it up, add more sugar to it, and then let it cool down and try the whole process again. This is numbers 3 and 4 of my rock candy because the first time didn't have enough sugar and nothing grew. It was kind of a few pieces here and there of crystals, but not enough to really warrant growing actual rock candy. This time, as you'll see, this jar especially, see how dark it is on the bottom here? You can see there's a liquid on the top, but this is all crystal down here. This mixture was actually too hot when I poured it in the jar, and it started crystallizing almost immediately. So this one was really difficult to get the string out of, and actually, I'll show you the rock candy, and let's see if I can pull it out. And if not, I might you can use a fork, and you can kind of scrape it to get to a point where you can get it out. Now, you need to let the rock candy sit for a couple of days. And if you give it a couple of days, then it'll really start growing really well. So this one, because it was so, it was so warm when I did it. This is how big the rock candy got. And this little piece here is the actual string. So it didn't work exactly the way we had planned. It did work, but it's a little bit silly looking. So at this point, I would take this out and I would let it suspend from another jar or a cup or a mug or something and let it dry. And then you can eat it as rock candy. So that's what happened with this one. And this was actually the same mixture. For some reason, this one didn't get as bad. You can see a lot more fluid at the top, but look at how crystallized it is at the bottom here. Down here, it's all white, so that's all crystallized sugar. And so when I went to get this one out this morning when I was starting this is what happened. All of my crystals ended up at the bottom of my jar, and I got this little itty bitty crystal on my stick. So I will tell you, science does not always do what you think it's going to do, and that's part of what science experiments are all about. Like I said, this is numbers 3 and 4 of testing rock candies out, and it just takes a little bit of practice and configuring. So like I said, you definitely want a few things. You want to make sure there's enough sugar in your mixture. If you're not seeing crystals grow that first day, pour it back into a pot, heat it again, and add more sugar and try a second time. That's what I did with these. But I think I didn't let them cool quite long enough, so they were still very warm when I poured them into the jars, and it just was too hot and started crystallizing almost immediately. So that wasn't great either. So try a couple different things. There's tons of recipes online. There's a lot of people who have suggestions on what to do and what not to do. I will say I think the string worked better as far as like having something grow on it than the stick did. But you can kind of use whatever you've got at home. That's kind of the best part about these science experiments and art projects. Use what you have and do your best at that. As always, we would love to see your creations on social media, so tag us at UMT Library. You can also use the hashtag UMTLReads for our summer reading program so we can see what you're up to, and hopefully you can get those pictures snagged before you eat all of your rock candy. Good luck, and we hope to see you guys soon. Bye!